In this episode, history and mysticism, two peculiar places in Almaty region. Certainly, Kazakhstan is a unique country for travelers in many ways. Rich history, magnificent, diverse nature, and of course mysterious places that are associated with mystical legends and beliefs. Someone wants to see the antiquity, someone enjoys nature. There are places where you can find all this in a short time. And today, we will go on an unusual journey for history and mysticism. The ancient settlement of Koylik. It was one of the centers of spiritual culture, spiritual life. People lived happily here. There were no bloody slaughters. Paradise in the middle of the steppe. 70 kilometers away from Matai station there is Lake Rai, paradise. We didn't know about it before. What wonders does the Paradise Lake? He could not walk. His both legs were paralyzed. He was taken to the lake. He stayed there for 15 days and in the end he threw out his cane. Ancient Buddhist temple, unique excavations and legends about the insidious spirit of a saltwater lake. Watch right now. Our film crew has been to many places in Kazakhstan. Today we are going to a place that keeps the sacred heritage, secrets and riddles of many generations. My name is Andrei Slozhin. It is the Time Puzzle. Zhetisu is a truly unique land. Here you can enjoy several different landscapes in a day, ranging from high mountains and ending with a desert. The people have been calling Zhetisu the Golden Cradle because the land is fertile, the climate is relatively mild, and the place has always been popular among ancient traveling merchants. The Silk Road, which influenced the development of this region, passed through the 7 rivers, and thanks to this trade route, many civilizations flourished here. According to historical data, in the 1st millennium BC, the Saka tribes lived here. In the 5th century AD, these places were inhabited by Usuns. The Western Turkey Khaganate was formed here. These lands were conquered by the Mongols. In the 15th century, the Kazakh Khanate was founded here. I am interested in the city, which can be called one of the most tolerant among the ancient settlements. Koylik, or as it is also called Kayalik, was the capital of Kalug Khaganate. The historian Adema Daibekova told me about it. Kayalik was the capital of Kalug Khaganate during the reign of Arslan Khan. He was located on the Silk Road and was considered the place where representatives of all religions gathered. That is, Islam, Christianity, Buddhism, Manichaeism were professed here. The site of the ancient settlement of Kayalik is located in the Almaty region, 190 kilometers from the city of Taldykurgan on the bank of the Ashibulak River, next to the modern village of the same name. According to historians, in the 10th century, at least 56 ancient cities existed in Zhetisu, and Kayalik was one of the largest among them. In addition, the city was a kind of pass, the point of divergence of trade routes on different sides of the world. There is a lot of documented evidence that at that time Kazakhstan was a key transit point in world trade. Writer and local historian Andrei Berezin told us about it.
В 1253 году посол французского короля Рубрук, проезжая.
In 2053, the ambassador of the French king Guillaume de Rubruck, passing into the capital of the Mongolian state, traveled our Semiratia from edge to edge. And in his notes, he mentioned that he met a lot of sites of ancient settlements, including a particularly large organum. The current historians say that this is nothing like the territory of the present village Balpik-B, the former Kirov.
На территории нынешнего поселка Балпык-Би, бывший Кировский. Каялык, значит, который посетил Рубрук, потряс его тем, что он мог идти молиться в несколько.
Rubruk was surprised that in Kayalik he was able to pray at several centers of spiritual culture. There was a Buddhist temple as well as Muslim and Christian ones.
Это был мусульманский, вот и христианский.
Rubruk's journey began in 2053 and lasted 2 years. Throughout his journey, he made notes about certain cities, states, and how people lived there. Separate chapters of Rubruk's notes were devoted to the gastronomic tastes of a particular people. For example, he, being a European, was shocked by the fact that nomads used horses not only as labor or for riding, but also consumed their meat and milk. He described one of the rites of the nomads. Before delivering the sheep's meat to the gas, the Lord himself takes what he likes, and also if he gives someone a special part, then the recipient should eat it alone and no one should be given it. If he cannot eat everything, then he must take it away or give it to his servant.
Сауданың да орталығы болып табылғанын көруге болады. Бұл жерден Буддаға
In addition, trade flourished here. There was a Buddhist temple. We will talk about it later.
жазылған. Мен
In his diaries, William of Rubruk also wrote about this. Literally the following. When I arrived in the city, I saw bald people dressed in yellow clothes. As it turned out, they were Buddhists. According to historians, Buddhism came to Kazakhstan approximately in the 1st century BC. Monks kept their way from India through Asia to China. In the Middle Ages, Sogdian tribes began to preach it most actively. Moreover, according to historical sources, the Turks favored Buddhists. For example, the Chinese monk Sun Zhang noted in his writings that some of the rulers of the Western Turks became Buddhists or patronized this religion. These records are dated to the 7th century AD.
Это предположительно остатки древнего
These are presumably the remains of the ancient religious building of Koilik, a Buddhist temple which was described by William of Rubruk. The area of the temple is 16 by 18 meters. On each side there are protruding towers. The walls are 4 meters high. But according to archaeologists, it was higher. In the center there is a hall which is 7 by 7.5 meters. As a rule, a statue of Buddha was installed there, but during excavations it was not found. In general, during the excavations of this temple, not a single artifact was found. Instead, scientists found a significant amount of a burnt roof. The first studies began in 1964. An expedition was organized here under the direction of the Soviet archaeologist Karl Baipakov.
В последние десятилетия существования Советского Союза учеными начались активные археологические.
In the last decade of the Soviet Union, scientists began active archaeological work on the territory of this village, Koilik.
Там было открытое поле, раскопали.
There was an open field. They started digging, dug deeper into the ground and found the walls. Today, this large area is studied.
Большая территория раскопана.
The senior researcher at the Museum of History of the Sarkhan district, Toleukan Bitimbayev, told us about interesting details of the excavations.
Қазбаларды жүргізген уақытта 1960 жылы бір бастады, соның 1990.
In 1968, archaeological excavations began. They didn't last long, but then they were resumed in 1998. The exploration was led by Baipakov himself. The scientists were pleasantly surprised by findings. It turned out that most of the buildings were made of Iranian red brick. We already know that representatives of different religions lived here. And we also know that Genghis Khan did not destroy the city. If the invasion had taken place, then scientists would have to find a multitude of human remains. But they didn't find any of that.
Сүйек табылмаған.
There are also opposite opinions. Some researchers believe that Kayalik Buddhists knew about the invasion of Genghis Khan's troops and were evacuated along with all the property, presumably in the direction of China. That is why the excavations did not reveal the Buddha and other religious artifacts. Few people know, but the pioneers made a great contribution to the study of this settlement.
Оқушылар археологиялық қазба жұмыстарында да қатысты. Сонымен қатар
Indeed, the children participated in archaeological excavations.
барысында ауылдың
The ancient settlement is located near the village. And when the excavation started, children went there and they also found a lot of things.
қалдықтары болғандықтан оқушылар
Thus, they helped to collect exhibits.
осы музейіміздің
They contributed to the development of the museum.
құрылуына.
Naturally, the children took part in excavations under the guidance of archaeologists. Some of the exhibits were taken to the Alma-Ata Museum, some were left in the village. That's how the Museum of the Ancient Settlement appeared in the school building of the village.
Музей ең
For the first time, the museum was opened as a children club. In 1969, school principal Mirza Yanov started a club for school students. These exhibits were collected by students, that is, fragments of pottery and bricks were found by children.
Этот фрагмент дерева был
The piece of wood was discovered during excavations of the ancient city of Koilek. According to the assumption of archaeologists, it is about 700 years old. Perhaps it was some part of an ancient building.
негізгі музейіміздағы экспонаттардың ең көзге көрнектісі тарихтағы сирек кездесетін ол кіші ыдыстардың бірі.
The main exhibit of our museum, which is very rare, is called kudra. It is designed to store grain. Now we use a fridge to store food. At that time, kudra was used as a kind of fridge. That is, it can keep one certain temperature in any weather.
Ол мына суықтан және ыстықтан бір температураны сақтап қалу үшін ғана пайдаланған.
There are water pipes in our museum. More precisely, their remnants. In the West, in ancient times, there was a sewer, but in our region, those pipes were used to transport drinking water.
Қорғанның сынықтары да бар. Сонымен қатар жер қойнауы
We also have pottery, which has lain in the ground for so many centuries, but has retained its color beautifully. We are proud of such exhibits.
мақтана аламыз.
In addition to the Buddhist temple, a mosque and a Christian temple were also found during the excavations of the ancient city. In his notes, Rubruk also described them. And he even prayed and spent several days in the Christian church and in the local community, which was located near Kaya Lake. Despite our notions that in the Middle Ages there were lots of civil strife and religious wars, Kaya Lake appeared to be an unusual city. But it wasn't the only reason for its loneliness.
Все средневековые города это были центры.
All medieval cities generally were the centers of some crafts. But what in particular?
Ну, например, южные города.
For example, the southern cities of Kazakhstan, where they made dishes and jugs from clay.
Изготовляли блюда.
And here in Kaya Lake, glassware was made.
А вот тут, в Каялыке, оказались стеклянные изделия. Удивительно, что там найдены стеклянные.
Surprisingly, some glassware was found there.
Это изобилие
But what does that mean?
для
This is an abundance of sand which is necessary for the manufacture and, of course, virtuoso masters. It was necessary to create the temperature in order to blow out a glass vase, and bowl, and a vessel of some kind.
какой-то.
город Кайлык был настолько
The city of Kaya Lake was so huge that after driving about 20 kilometers from the place where the ruins of the Buddhist temple are located, we never left its borders. By the way, particularly in this place, the most of the exhibits that are now kept in the museum of the medieval town of Kaya Lake were found.
Сол қазбалардың ішінде жаңағы керамикадан жасалған мынау от,
Among the finds there were ceramic dishes, ceramicware.
одан жасалған ыдыстары қолданысқа берілген. Соларда жаңағы астықтарын өзі сақтаған.
The inhabitants used them to store grain and other products.
Күндерін көрген екен. Пайдаланған, сонымен жаңағы күндерін көріп отырған. Әсіресе айта кетейін,
Thanks to the records of Rubruk, the city became famous in the Western Hemisphere.
жасағандықтан, біздің мына шығыс жаққа қарай бүткіл Европа мемлекеті қойлық қаласын білген.
Coming up next, why Kayalik disappeared. The peaceful neighborhood of different cultures and religions was observed in other cities of ancient Kazakhstan. Most likely, this was facilitated by active international trade in the region. After all, what merchant would go on a long journey knowing that he could be killed for his own religion?
Ұлы жібек жолында болғаннан кейін де жаңағы бір кездердегі діни де алатын болатын болсақ, біздің өзіміздің жаңағы осы жерде
The city was on the Great Silk Road, so different religions came here. Even local tribes were once converted to Christianity. Then Islam came in this region. After that, Buddhism and Manichaeism. Prior to all this, Tengriism flourished here. At the time of Genghis Khan, people were not divided along religious lines. For Kagan, only the integrity of the state was important. He created a country where there was no civil strife. Therefore, there was no reason for waging war. Every person was entitled to spread his faith without fear for his life. Order and tolerance flourished in society.
тұрып жатты.
So how did it happen that the once developed and large city has sunk into oblivion? There are various opinions about it. Someone claims that it was destroyed by the Mongols in retaliation for the fact that the city government did not obey their demands to pay tribute and put their representative at the head of the settlement. There is also another speculation about the extinction of the city, namely changing the course of the Silk Road. Merchants simply stopped coming here. Citizens suffered losses and moved to other cities. That is another version.
Үлкен жер сілкінісі болған дейді. Сол енді үлкен балда болған, сондықтан да бүткіл елдің бәрі қалақтың бәрі.
There was a very high magnitude earthquake.
Солар ғана қалған кейбір жерлерінде.
We don't know for sure how strong it was, but the city was completely destroyed.
Өлген уақытта жаңағы төрт жақтан төрт жаңағы нелерін тапқан.
Only some buildings with a special structure survived.
Мешіттің соборын тапқан. Мұсылмандардың енді 14 ғасырдағы
They are Buddha's temple, Muslim mosque of the 14th century, Nestorian Christian cathedral. However, only the Buddhist temple survived to our days.
Ал енді буддизмдікі әлі күнге дейін тұр. Қазір мемлекет қорғауында үстіне шатырлап жауып қойған.
Қалашыққа қазіргі таңда қызығушылық өте көп. Туристер.
Now many are interested in the settlement. A lot of tourists come here. Recently, more children began to visit this site. This is a historical place. It plays an important role in educating young people in a patriotic spirit.
Осындай музейға шақырып тұрамыз.
It is possible that in the near future scientists will find out the true cause of the destruction of Kayalik, since now excavations have resumed there. They are conducted as many years ago under the leadership of Karl Baipakov. Unfortunately, during the filming, the archaeological expedition of Karl Moldakmatovich was absent at the excavation site. We didn't have enough time to wait for them, and we went further to an equally interesting and mysterious place located in Zhetysu. Coming up next, a spirit of a woman who guards the dead lake. In Almaty region, there is a place that is famous for its healing powers, and there are a lot of horror stories about it. And we are going to that place. The lake is located 200 kilometers from the city of Taldykorgan, an hour's drive from the village of Matai. The rotate runs through the foothills, which are replaced by steppe and desert. The crew of the time puzzle was met by the local Akim, who became our guide. First of all, we were met in accordance with the ancient Kazakh traditions and sat down at the table. During the conversation, we managed to learn that there are two people in the village who know almost everything about the place of interest to us. One of them was the history teacher Tengizbek Kapdoldanova. The lake appeared a long time ago. A couple of centuries ago, locals mined salt there. There was a lot of salt. When it began to end, many small lakes formed in its place. Some of them are salty, others are not. The lake is hidden from prying eyes in the sands. You can get here only by off-road vehicle or on foot, of course if you have enough strength to walk 70 kilometers under the scorching sun. In summer, the temperature in these places rises to the level of 45 to 50 degrees. And only thickets of shrubs and sucksole are in sight. According to local residents, the largest wolves in the country inhabit the vicinity, and sometimes in winter they become a threat to humans. There is even a saying, for 6 days the wolf feeds on the steppe, and on the 7th it comes to the village. 70 kilometers from the station Matai there is Rai Lake, or as it is called Paradise Lake. We did not know about it before, but we found out that the place is really heaven-like. There are several lakes, the ecology is good. Many wild animals are found: muskrats, hares, deer, wild boars, pheasants and others. Most of the locals enjoy hunting. After a while, people began to notice that the temperature was hot underwater and cool on the surface. Then it turned out that under the water there are several layers of salt. Because of this, the temperature increased. And salt has healing properties. And residents began to swim in the lake. And many people were cured here. Scientists explain such a difference in water temperature by the fact that there are hot hydrogen sulfide springs at the bottom of the lake. That is why the water in the lake is divided into conditional layers, from hot to cold. There are several similar lakes in the district, the origin of which cannot be explained by the old-timers of these places. Local resident Serik Kiribekov shared his opinion on this. Not a single river flows into this lake. Nearby there are also 2 lakes. But they have no healing properties. Sometimes the lakes connect and the water level rises a little. The healing properties of this lake can be compared only with the Dead Sea. People say that there are many healing properties, but this lake is as good as the Dead Sea. People come here to get well. Of course, there is no special infrastructure, but everyone knows about this place. For example, we had a veterinarian named Begbolat. He worked at the farm in Kuraksu. He could not walk, his both legs were paralyzed. He was taken to the lake, he stayed there for 15 days, and in the end, he threw out his cane and started walking. I'm a witness to this event. One of the theories of the origin of this lake and other water bodies adjacent to it is explained by the fact that the Balkhash, once a huge freshly salty lake located in the same region, was larger. When it moved away from these places, some lowlands were flooded with this very salty water, where it remained to this day. But this is just a guess. This is the most salty lake in this area. I wetted my right hand literally a minute ago and salt appeared on it. The healing properties of salt are known since antiquity. For example, the Romans and Jews built hospitals on the shores of the Dead Sea. There is even a legend that supposedly Cleopatra found out about the miraculous properties of water and mud from the Dead Sea and used them for rejuvenation. Locals and visiting tourists also compare Paradise Lake with the Dead Sea and tell about its miraculous properties. In the village, there are many legends that someone was healed from the disease after swimming in the lake. My daughter got sick. She had redness on the back of her head. She worked in Astana and came here to go to the lake. She swam in the lake in the morning, and in the evening this sore was gone. She took a picture and sent it to her doctor. He was surprised. He asked how this could be. Only yesterday there was a red spot. How did it disappear? This is the healing power of Rye Lake. I knew about it for a long time. I know many people who were cured by the lake. I talked to many of them. I cannot say that it cures all diseases. Of course, some cannot be healed here. I think that scientists should study this place so that they can tell you which diseases can be cured there and which ones cannot. However, the Paradise Lake and its healing properties have not been studied by scientists yet, in contrast to the Dead Sea in Israel. According to scientists, the salt content there is about 10 times higher than in the water of all seas and oceans. Also, most people believe that because of the lack of a single living organism in the Dead Sea, it is called dead. It's a delusion. Even in dead water, there is life. The flagellated algae Dunaliella salina, which has adapted to extreme living conditions. Some people also believe that there are no living things in Paradise Lake too, but this applies only to fish and algae. In salt water, there are small red crustaceans or worms. Science is silent about them. And they feel great, but locals claim that people have to be very careful in these places. People with high blood pressure had better not go there, because it is very hot. The pressure may shoot up. And visitors shouldn't swim a lot, for example, from morning to evening. 15 to 20 minutes a day is enough. 2 or 3 times, no more. The healing power is too strong. The salt concentration is so high that it is impossible to drown in this lake. Water literally pushes you out. Our host experienced it firsthand. Despite the distance from the big city and an extremely difficult road, many people come here to take a dip in the healing water and take mud baths, admire the beautiful scenery, and even get a blessing. But who here helps people to get heavenly grace? Coming up next, whose spirit guards the Paradise Lake and punishes careless travelers? When the film crew went on a trip to Paradise Lake, everyone was in anticipation to see some heaven-like place. The nature here is really very beautiful, but this beauty is insidious. Numerous shrubs covered with sharp spines and venomous snakes inhabit this place. The road runs among the sand dunes, and unprepared traveler can get lost here. After sunset, there is a huge number of stinging insects that mercilessly dig into bare parts of the body. The water in the lake is so salty that if it comes into contact with the eyes, it can seriously damage the mucous membrane. So why is this place called Rye, or Paradise? It turned out that there is a legend about a woman who was the first to heal in this lake. According to the legend, there was such a case. Previously, local residents suffered from various diseases, like all other peoples of antiquity. There was one woman whose disease never retreated, and in order not to infect anyone anymore, she went to the steppe. She found a lake and decided to swim to ease her pain. She even wanted to drown herself, but the water pushed her on the surface. After that, the woman noticed that her wounds began to disappear. She recovered. Many years later, after her death, she was buried there. The mausoleum was built, residents visited, pray, read the Quran. The name of that woman was Raya. The lake was named after her. Indeed, there is an old grave near the lake. It is believed that a traveler has to come here, ask for blessing from Raya, and only then go on. The ritual that is performed here is also curious. After reading the Quran, you need to go up, put a handful of sand on the grave. According to the locals, everything must be done correctly, otherwise the misfortune cannot be avoided. It is said that if the spirit of Raya gets mad, then it will appear in a cloud of mist over the water and take away the life of the guilty one. The second legend of the creation of these lakes tells about it. Some people believe that Raya was not a simple girl, but had a special gift.
Raya апа туралы айтсақ, енді бірнеше әфсана болып жатады. Менің білетінім 16-17 ғасырда қазақ қалмақ шапқыншылығы кезінде.
There are several legends about Raya Apa. I'll tell you one version. In the 16th, 17th centuries, during the wars between the Kazakhs and Kalmyks, there was a battle near Kuraksu. Then they managed to capture the Kalmyk girl named Raygul. Batyr married her, made her second wife, or as they say, a tokal. There was the wintering site. Sick pets that could not move were kept there. Batyr left there a young wife and helpers. He went to Jailao. When he returned, he noticed that all the cattle were fattened. She took good care of them. That is, she was a healer, not a simple girl. Everyone learned about it. The sick and wounded came to her for treatment. She lived there for a long time, and after her death, she was buried on a hill. People still worship her. They still visit her grave. It is believed that nobody could inherit her abilities, but this healing power passed to the lake. At first, nobody knew about it, but then a sick person bathed there. He noticed that the wounds went away on their own. Then people began to believe that the power of Raya Apa passed to the lake.
Соның жарасынан айығады. Сонан кейін барып біліп, осы Рая апаның қасиеті осы күлге оған екен деп айтады.
Of course, the legend is beautiful, but we don't know if it is truth. However, there are many people who claim to have seen the ghost of a woman in white robes above the waters of the lake. And we were told that this lake is the only saline in the area. But it turned out that in the neighboring reservoir there is also salt water, although with less concentration of minerals. About a dozen lakes are scattered over a large area, but only one has healing power and is shrouded in mystery: Paradise Lake. This place has to be studied. Chemists and biologists should reveal the composition of water in soil. They would confirm the healing properties of this place. If someone began doing this, I think a lot of people, not only Matai residents, but also others would know more about it and would be able to recover and improve their health. Now there are many legends and conversations about Paradise Lake. Some are about how people were healed from various diseases and began to live again. Others, on the contrary, about the vengeful spirit of the lake, which punishes the visitors who have not shown respect. Perhaps someday chemists, biologists and archaeologists will get here to explain all the wonders of these places and dispel its secrets. In the meantime, Paradise Lake keeps its secrets securely hidden by salt water.
Путешествуйте, открывайте.
Travel, discover new places, study history. This is very interesting. My name is Andrei Slozhin. It was a time puzzle. See you.